Hi there, and welcome to this deep dive into the jail love scene between Vi and Caitlyn in Season 2 of Arcane. I really love this scene, and I've watched it so many times, for the obvious reasons, of course, but mainly because on the surface it looks like just another sex scene, but true to all of the Arcane series, it is so much more than that. It parallels events across the two seasons and serves the purpose of tying up a bunch of loose ends in the Violyn relationship, including the love triangle they have with Jinx, while at the same time healing these two women in a profound way. There are still a few things I would have wanted more of, but in general I am satisfied. I'm going to go through the scene step by step, addressing interpretations as they pop up, like I did with the shower scene, and then of course I'll ramble a little in the end, as I always do. These two women sure do make me ramble quite a bit. The first thing we see is a medium shot of the setting, Vi locked in the bunker cell. We don't get a long shot of the whole setting, both since we've already seen it in several scenes before this, and because we go straight for a more personal medium shot right where we left Vi after Jinx locked her in there. This place is brightly lit and the bars are wrought in intricate patterns typical for Piltover architecture. The entry to the cell that we see in the shadow here is a broad arch, and the place is held in earthy colours, so this cell is not exactly doom and gloom like Stillwater Hold, where Caitlyn meets Vi for the first time. That prison is much darker and danker, the colour scheme dark red and blue. A very different feel, but we're supposed to compare these two scenes and these two settings. There are simply too many similarities for it not to be. Vi is dressed similarly, standing in the same way, bloodied fists from punching the wall, and Caitlyn arrives with the key to letting Vi out of her prison. A prison which in both instances is both a physical and a metaphorical one. The similar and yet more bright and positive setting here in Season 2 definitely sets the tone for happier events than just Vi being freed. I guess she's getting release in more ways than one. When the scene starts and we first see Vi, she has her back turned to us, withdrawn deep into the cell. Her shoulders are hunched, her head hangs in defeat, and she's breathing heavily, whether from emotional or physical exertion, we don't know yet. She's facing the wall as if she's hiding from her own shame, as if she's trying to crawl under a rock. Then we zoom in, and as she turns towards us, we see her like a caged animal, alert for threats like a wounded predator pushed into a corner, hackles up, expecting a fight. Just like the first time she and Caitlyn meet. And I'm pretty sure the idea of a caged predator crosses Caitlyn's mind the first time around, but this time Caitlyn doesn't hesitate to unlock the cage and let the wounded animal out. But Vi doesn't come out. She's too deep into her own despair to be released from her own metaphorical prison just yet. Before I go on, I need to explain Vi's reason for being so miserable. The situation is that Vi has tried to spring Jinx from this very prison, which Caitlyn has had Jinx locked up in. But Jinx double-crosses Vi and escapes without Vi, leaving her behind, locked in the jail cell. Vi has been punching the walls in frustration and anguish, bloodying her fists, because she feels she has lost everything. Very different from Season 1, where it seems like she's training to punch someone else, such as the guards or Silco. But here she's not training, but bloodying her fists as punishment for herself. She wanted to believe Jinx had changed and tried to convince Jinx to join the fight against Noxus, which would redeem Jinx to some extent. But Jinx is lost in her grief and needs an escape. She feels too far gone to redeem herself. Something that Vi doesn't realize. She thinks she's been fooled by Jinx once again, showing how she always makes the wrong choices. Caitlyn doesn't look surprised or happy that Vi's there in the cell. There is not a hint of affection in her voice when she says,
"Had a feeling I might find you here."
But the words do show a high level of familiarity with Vi, and gives us the first clue as to her role in Vi being locked in a cell. She keeps her voice businesslike, trying not to give away any emotions she might have about the situation. When she opens the cell door, she waits at a polite distance for Vi to come out. Caitlyn's shadow is in the middle of a pool of light, signaling the way to freedom and happiness for Vi. But Vi stays in the shadow of the cell door, caught in her grief and in the bonds she has put on herself, symbolized nicely by the shadows of bars on her back. Caitlyn then finds out that it's of course Jinx who's on Vi's mind. No surprise there. But when Vi says,
"Say it,"
we see Kate's eyes widen. She can hear the despair in Vi's voice, and she realizes that Vi, as always, blames herself and is devastated over having chosen wrong once more. The softer expression we see on Caitlyn's face is both surprise and concern for Vi, that she has once again beaten herself up about something and fully expects Caitlyn to blame her for it. And we get the reason why Vi has imprisoned herself in her own misery with her following words.
"I was an idiot to trust her. I went behind your back."
In believing in one, she has betrayed the other. And it all boils down to the theme of choice. A choice she has had to make. One that I predicted that she would have to make back in season 1. Who would she pick, Jinx or Caitlyn? And she has tried to make that choice after the events of the season 1 finale. First, she chose Caitlyn and joined with her against Jinx. That went spectacularly wrong, and Vi was left with no one. And now she has picked Jinx, which in her mind has gone spectacularly wrong, leaving her with no one again. Vi believes that in freeing Jinx, she has forever ruined her chances of happiness with Caitlyn.
"I've lost everyone."
Her voice is on the verge of breaking into crying. Vi has probably had the thought that there was a good chance that Caitlyn still loved her because of the events of episode 6 and after. Caitlyn teamed up with her against Ambessa. She was very worried when Vi was injured, and she has nursed Vi back to health in Caitlyn's own bed. And the argument in Kate's study was full of sexual tension and showed Vi that Caitlyn didn't plan on punishing Jinx so harshly. So there must be some feelings there. But Vi thinks this chance is gone now, and she feels it acutely. We see the misery and the lack of hope in how her head hangs, her eyes closed, leaning against the prison wall as if she could be swallowed by it, her arms almost looking like she's trying to pull herself under. She's turning away from the light and letting the shadow of bars perfectly centered on her back symbolize her own inner prison, effectively ignoring the upward arrow it's making and the light pooled around Caitlyn. Vi doesn't see the hope. She feels she has hit rock bottom again and fully expects Caitlyn to give up on her. But of course Caitlyn hasn't. Her next words reveal this to Vi and to the viewers. In fact, Caitlyn loves Vi so much that she has set up a ruse so that Vi could escape with her sister. Caitlyn knows Vi will always want the best for her sister, that Vi will always want to choose her sister, and Caitlyn understands that and wants Vi to be happy. So Vi trying to free Jinx was therefore easy for Caitlyn to guess and to set up, so Vi has the chance to spring Jinx free. And now we understand her previous words better. Why they show such a high level of familiarity and no shock, and yet so little emotion. Why Caitlyn's facial expression and posture is so defensive and guarded. Caitlyn must have walked towards the jail, heart in her mouth, wondering if she has seen Vi for the last time in her life. Setting up this escape plan means that Caitlyn is willing to forego her own happiness with Vi in order to make Vi happy. Aww. Caitlyn didn't know if Vi would escape with Jinx, but she knows Jinx is unpredictable. Vi being there must have set a slew of emotions running in Caitlyn. But as always, she is good at hiding her feelings, and she doesn't know how Vi feels about her anymore, so she's holding back. Her face is closed and set in stern folds until Vi's words show Caitlyn how much Vi is hurting. Her face softens and she can't help approaching Vi, wanting to alleviate Vi's hurt. She doesn't touch Vi though. As I've shown before, Caitlyn expresses a lot of her feelings through touch, but in this moment, she tucks her hands under her arms, as if she's keeping herself from touching Vi. Maybe she feels she doesn't have the right to touch Vi anymore, or she won't be able to control herself or let go of Vi if she does. I also think it's because she correctly deduces that Vi is not susceptible to touch in her current state. Caitlyn needs to calm Vi down and let her know that not all is lost before touch can even be on the table. Caitlyn comes closer and leans against the wall next to Vi and lets her know that she removed all the guards from the bunker when she didn't need to, meaning she left the jail unprotected on purpose. Caitlyn leans her head against the wall facing Vi, totally relaxed. She's no longer on the outside looking in on this woman from the Undercity, unsure if she should cross the line. No, she meets Vi where she is, no hesitation, so she leans casually against the wall, needing Vi to know that she is there for her. The confidence and ease in which Caitlyn leans against the wall, as well as the smiling demeanour, tells Vi a bunch of things at once, and therefore Vi catches all the subtext of Caitlyn's words really quickly. Vi's head pops up, inhaling in surprise, her expression radically different. Even if she has let herself be fooled by Caitlyn, she's incredibly quick in catching all the implications of what Caitlyn is saying. Caitlyn made it so that Jinx and Vi could escape by removing the guards, meaning that Caitlyn wanted to give Jinx a chance to escape. Which also means that Caitlyn has either forgiven Jinx for what she has done, or that she was willing to forego her revenge for Vi's sake. Caitlyn doesn't believe Vi is accountable for Jinx's actions anymore. She's willing to not only sacrifice her own sense of justice for Vi's sake, but also give up her own potential happiness with Vi in order to make Vi happy with Jinx. And in so doing, trying to right her own wrongs regarding Jinx and Vi. And lastly, all of this together with the way Caitlyn is looking at Vi shows Vi that Caitlyn still loves her. Vi's expression thus rapidly changes from despair to amazement, a glimmer of hope in her eyes, which quickly dart to Caitlyn's mouth, her thoughts already moving in a romantic direction. And Caitlyn then completes the change in Vi's mood by smirking slightly before saying,
Sorry to say, you've grown a bit predictable.
Her smile is sassy, her tone and words are provocative, and her voice is teasing, trying to lighten Vi's mood. Caitlyn's teasing could seem like kicking someone who's down, but it's exactly what Vi needs. The lightness, the banter, the calm teasing, letting Vi know undramatically that she planned it all. She knows Vi that well. All of it has a calming effect on Vi. Well, actually, it excites Vi too. I really love this moment, because even if Caitlyn is expecting nothing in return from Vi, which we see in the surprise and lack of immediate reactions a moment later, she can't help smiling at Vi and flirting with her. Caitlyn, flirting? Where did this part of her character come from? That smirk on her face as she lets Vi know just how easy she is to manipulate is irresistible to Vi. So Vi wipes the smug smile off her face by dragging her in for a series of kisses. The scene kicks into a different gear when Vi takes control of the situation. This shift is also signalled by King Princess's song Fantastic, which surges into the foreground, setting a happy and sexy mood for the coming shots. Most shots are close-up, even extreme close-ups of their lips, really coming in to see how into each other these two are. I may be reaching a little, but I can't help seeing a significance in how they're pushing each other into the light, past the shadows of the bars, symbolizing how their love for each other has been fraught with hardships, but ultimately their love leads them both in a better direction in the end. Vi shows a love for Caitlyn and her appreciation for what she has done by giving her kisses in quick succession, as if all the feelings she has carried around for so long suddenly can't be held back anymore. She loves Caitlyn and wants her, So Vi dives right in, no hesitation, no taking things slow, no holding back, to see if Caitlyn is even on the same page. So unlike what Caitlyn did in their first kiss, where she approached Vi very slowly, making sure her advances were welcome. No, this time it's full-on snog. Yeah! Caitlyn doesn't push Vi away, but her response to Vi's kisses is an active surprise for a few seconds, after which she throws herself into Vi's kisses with just as much gusto. This tells us that though Caitlyn is very open to Vi's advances, she didn't come to the jail with the intention of seducing Vi, even if her sassy smirk sets a fire burning in Vi. She's surprised when Vi grabs her and kisses her. It takes her a beat to catch up, but then she closes her eyes and embraces Vi tightly. The flirting earlier showed Vi that Caitlyn hadn't given up on them, opening a door for Vi's advances so she doesn't hesitate when she pounces on Caitlyn. But even if she is forceful and fervent in her kisses, she still takes a little peek to check if Caitlyn is with her. Aw, they're so adorable together. Before I move on, I just want to make a quick comment on the animation, which in all of Arcane is amazing, giving so much detail to every scene, opening up for lots of interpretation, human emotion, symbolism, parallels, etc., etc. But it's also used so we as an audience can immerse ourselves in the experience by making everything so detailed, so realistic, and so believable. Like when Vi is kissing Caitlyn's throat, we see Caitlyn's subtle wrong move. She's going in for a kiss, but Vi is going for the neck, so Caitlyn has this half-finished move with her mouth open. Nothing feels staged about this, even though we know every millisecond is. Also, the way Vi's thumb caresses Caitlyn's cheek, and the animation shows how it pulls her skin. It looks so real! Makes it so tactile to watch. You can feel how soft her skin is. Vi pushes ahead. There's no holding back now. She means business. Caitlyn can only lean into Vi's touch and be on the receiving end of all the pent-up passion Vi has kept inside for so long. She hasn't been able to do this after wanting to for ages. So she wants it all, including kissing Caitlyn on the neck and to feel more of her skin, which means Caitlyn's jacket is dealt with forthwith. The only ones really noticing that is the viewers who are like, whoa, here? Now? Well, actually, Caitlyn, the somewhat sensible mother's daughter, notices the speed of things too, and pulls back. Not because she feels things are moving too fast. Oh no, we find out later that she is all there and ready. No, it's because she has to get something off her chest, and I guess Caitlyn wants things to be out in the open before they can take things further. Vi is completely engrossed in Caitlyn here, and when Caitlyn draws back, Vi is pulled after her. She's so caught up. Caitlyn keeps a more level head, which I guess is her trademark, except for episode 3. So she moves backwards right after Vi has pushed Caitlyn's jacket to the ground. The jacket coming off signifies a fast track towards having sex, so Caitlyn steps back into a darker portion of the cell, her face somber and anxious, the whole atmosphere changing, the music muting a little. The first time I watched this, I was sure she would address the major thing standing between them. Caitlyn rejecting Vi so cruelly in episode 3, even resorting to violence against her. Through my analysis of Caitlyn in the first act, I've come to understand why Caitlyn could do this to Vi, but I still see her actions as wrong. And in my opinion, this moment definitely needs an apology and an explanation. This moment has to be addressed for them to move on as a couple, because it is a betrayal, a complete misunderstanding, and an abuse of trust and love. But Caitlyn doesn't. Instead, she talks about the fling with Maddie. What? Why? This fling should be rather insignificant. But the way it's shown in this love scene, it's as if sleeping with another woman is a bigger betrayal in Caitlyn's eyes, even if no promises were made or broken. I disagree with this idea. I think physically harming and brutally abandoning the woman she loves and who loves her is worse than giving herself and her body to someone else. The events of episode 3 seem like a much bigger offense to me than having sex with someone else when they are broken up. I mean, were they ever really a couple before things fell apart? But I guess we have to read into this. That for Caitlyn, being faithful and truthful is a big thing. And since she has loved Vi the whole time, she sees it as a betrayal. Anyway, I would think this matter needed to be addressed by both of them, but it isn't addressed directly at any time in the show. And I think this is a failing of season 2. A lot of things are left unsaid or said off screen, and therefore many events and actions feel rushed, the audience not quite keeping up with what's going on screen. On the other hand, if we look at this in the light of how the animated storytelling of Arcane works most of the time in the show, then I guess it actually makes sense that things aren't talked about so much. So many things are narrated by showing, not telling, which means a lot of things are up to analysis and interpretation. Very little is explained directly. And I love this. It's why I'm doing these videos, but still, I do feel Caitlyn has some explaining and sucking up to do. But I guess it's all water under the bridge because Vi says,
I don't fucking care.
All she wants is Caitlyn now. Looking closer at this moment in the light of what happens in the rest of the scene, or more importantly, what doesn't happen, also makes me understand the dynamic between Vi and Caitlyn better. They're better at showing how they feel with their actions, not with their words. In my interpretation, Vi thinks she deserved Caitlyn's abuse, because she feels she chooses wrong every time. Vi always blames herself and cannot make a choice that favours herself, so Jinx and Caitlyn have to make the choice for her. And I guess letting Jinx escape is a big part of Caitlyn showing Vi that she has found it in her to forgive, or at least to let go of her hate and her mother's killer. And she does it because she loves Vi more than anything else. So letting Jinx escape can be seen as a form of apology or atonement. Another apology is the extremely tender moment where Caitlyn gently caresses Vi's bandaged wound. This wound can be understood threefold. 1. It traces their relationship back to the moment where Vi was injured in this area the first time. 2. It's also where Caitlyn hit Vi with the rifle butt, a hurt that apparently has healed, but still needs some affection from Caitlyn. 3. And of course, it marks the recent hurt of Isha's death, the wound she got in the skirmish with Ambessa. It symbolises the fear of losing someone and how that cuts through all the other bullshit. If you love someone, don't hold back. So I guess the events of episode 3 are addressed indirectly by giving this bandaged wound so much focus later on in the scene. What is actually said by Caitlyn here is not about the rifle as I would have thought, but something else entirely. Caitlyn refers to their time apart as Vi being gone, and downplaying Maddie by saying saw someone instead of saying sleeping with or giving Maddie's name. The way Caitlyn looks at Vi here is so vulnerable. Her eyes are wide, drawing in a big nervous gulp of air when Vi says Kate, clearly expecting some form of chastisement or that she has to explain. Plainly, Caitlyn fears that what she has said and what more she can say about Maddie could be a deal breaker in her and Vi's relationship. But Vi interrupts Caitlyn before she can say any of this. She does not care at all, only that Caitlyn is hers now. So now we get to the glorious high point of this love scene, of this love story. The moment we've all been waiting for. Violyn finally happening for real. Vi cuts through all the bullshit, all the less important things. It doesn't matter what Caitlyn did while they weren't together. It doesn't matter what they did to each other if they love each other now and can forgive. Then the rest doesn't effing matter. The music swells to new heights in the chorus of the fantastic song as Vi pounces on Caitlyn again. This time there's no pause from Caitlyn. She kisses Vi back right away, putting her hands on Vi's cheeks. The kiss is deeper than before but still quick. And then we get the wonderful moment that made my heart twinge pleasantly. The moment where Vi and Caitlyn are in the same place and on the same page, physically and emotionally. There. Ah, isn't that lovely? I could just stare at that all day. It's such a shame that this moment only lasts for 1 second or so, with 2 quick clips, almost not giving people like me the chance to pause before the moment is past. But goodness, that didn't stop me from trying, and lots of others have done the same. Just look at this mural from Brazil. This moment, along with another one we'll get to soon, is so beautiful to me because it's a quiet look between them of understanding and love before their desire takes over again. They stop the kiss but keep their heads close together, not quite making eye contact because they're too close, but they look at each other's gentle and loving smiles, mirroring each other beautifully. So loving, monumental and symbolic this moment is. After all this time, after so many hardships and tragedies in the way of their happiness, nothing is holding them back, be it internal or outside forces keeping them apart. They are finally in a place where they are equals on every level. No matter where and when they are, they're a team, a unit, a couple, lovers in name and body. They form an imperfect heart, a symbol of unification and peace in the midst of a prison, in the midst of war, free to be with the one they want. This is what I want to see in the midst of all the tragedy, the hope, the joy. Having thus formed a contract, an alignment of their wants and desires, briefly cementing their relationship, they move forward with their lovemaking. Now Caitlyn is the one pushing forward again, showing how evenly these two are matched, both giving and taking equally. She pushes Vi against the wall gently, pressing their bodies together. Vi embraces Caitlyn, burying her face in Caitlyn's neck, just reveling in the fact that she can touch Caitlyn, map her body with her hands. The framing constantly shifts between extreme close-ups of their faces, bodies and hands, with medium shots in between to see their movements in the context of the jail cell. This gives us a very deep insight into how they feel, but it's also a constant reminder of the fact that this takes place in a jail cell. I'll get to the significance of this later. Vi moves slowly, savouring having Caitlyn in her hands, but suddenly we see Caitlyn's hands grab her own shirt and to Vi's surprise, she pulls it over her head quickly. Vi's eyes not only widening with surprise, but with awe at having Caitlyn reveal herself to Vi so freely. And yes, it seems like she likes Caitlyn's boobs. Caitlyn takes a few steps back and just looks at Vi with a happy expression on her face. She's not moving back because she thinks things are moving too fast. No, she's the pace setter here, escalating things by taking her top off. I think Caitlyn moves back to show that she's fully conscious of what she's doing. She's not letting herself be carried away. She's wide aware and eager to take things further. She expresses a want, a desire for Vi with this move, showing Vi that she both is and isn't vulnerable with her. She is happy, secure and open, not afraid to let Vi see. The camera switches to a close-up of her face, blowing her hair away nonchalantly. Oh, goodness. And in this moment, the lyrics of the song go, "I'm feeling amazing." And I'm 100% sure that that applies to Caitlyn here. She finally has what she has always wanted. Something true, someone real who loves her just as she is. The hair blow demonstrates this effervescence beautifully, but it is also a show of cheeky self-confidence, as if she's saying, "Here I am, I'm all yours, and I'm happy to be yours." It also parallels the cheek and confidence of a certain someone, but thankfully in happier circumstances. Vi is surprised by Caitlyn's reckless abandon, almost not understanding how Caitlyn would want to go this far this quickly. The uptight, upper-class lady that she first hit on in the brothel is replaced by a much bolder and brash woman. Now Vi is the one who takes a moment to catch up. I like to think this self-assurance is not due to Maddie, but to the amount of time she has had to stand alone in the face of Ambessa, as well as the urgency and grittiness of war. That, and the assurance of her own feelings and her joy at Vi still feeling the same. Vi is still reeling a bit when Caitlyn moves in again to remove Vi's clothing, her eyes focused on Caitlyn's face to make sure what she's seeing is right, and then shifting her gaze when Caitlyn starts peeling her clothes off, as if not quite believing what she is seeing. And then we get what Juby calls a nice piece of fan service by having Caitlyn slowly pull off Vi's top, gradually revealing a close-up of Vi's back tattoo, her muscles rippling as she shrugs off the clothing with Caitlyn's help. If there was a camera involved, I'd say it was lovingly caressing Vi, really dwelling on some prime piece of skin, but as always I have Fortiche to thank for that. After that, we move on to my favourite moment, which always... let's try that again. We cut to an extreme close-up of... I'm so sorry. I just melt every time I watch this. There's so much love and tenderness in Kate's eyes here. It just gets me. But I guess I can script my way out of this, damn it. Okay, here we go. The framing moves from Vi's back to over her shoulder in an extreme close-up of half of Caitlyn's face. And dwelling on her face as she looks Vi in the eyes first and then gradually shifts her gaze down. Caitlyn is appreciating what she sees, moving languidly now that their tops are off. The amount of love and affection in Caitlyn's eyes here is staggering. Imagine being in the receiving end of that. Or should I say we only see one. She certainly doesn't need to have two eyes to look at Vi with such love. All of the love is abundantly clear in just this right eye. There's a lot of foreshadowing in Season 2 that shows Caitlyn's left eye blotted out, pointing to the loss of her eye in the fight with Ambessa. But I think I'll go into this more in my full characterization of Caitlyn in Season 2, which will come out in... be prepared to wait for it. Caitlyn's gaze moves lovingly from Vi's eyes to her lips and then further down, quickly skimming Vi's chest until it dwells on the bandage on Vi's abdomen, a wound that represents so much for them, as I mentioned earlier. She reaches out with her hand and lets the tips of her fingers make feather-like touches on the bandage, not wanting to hurt Vi by touching, but still wanting to acknowledge the pain that Vi has been through. She wants to alleviate Vi's pain, but Vi has a much better idea as to what will make the pain go away. Vi has passively let Caitlyn undress her and get a good look, but Vi doesn't want to dwell on the past anymore. She grabs Caitlyn's arm and pulls her in to bring their bodies flush against each other, conquering Caitlyn's lips once more. Vi is, as ever, aggressive and direct in her approach, where Caitlyn is more careful and tactile in hers. Their lovemaking swells back and forth between them, both of them switching continuously between yielding and controlling. I love it. They mean business. Thank you, Fortiche and creators of Arcane. I'm really enjoying this women-loving women scene that doesn't hesitate or make excuses. It just shows a desire between two people in love. It feels real and light, like the moment where Vi has issues with Caitlyn's belt and they both smile and laugh about it. It's wonderful to see Caitlyn smile and laugh with her teeth like this. She hasn't really done that since bantering with Jace in Season 1. And then we get to the really racy bits, and again we get our money's worth in steaminess. We switch from a medium shot framing showing that Vi's hands are busy to Caitlyn's enjoyment, to close-ups of their faces and hands enjoying each other's bodies. And then, Vi moves downwards while kissing Caitlyn's skin. Yep, lots of stuff going on. I especially like how it almost looks like Caitlyn is swaying to the music as Vi moves downward. They're both very focused on the other, and Fortiche has made this part of the scene both enormously sexy and rather innocent at the same time. Part of me is annoyed at the unfocused areas, so we don't get the full picture. But another part is grateful, because this way we get so much uncut. We get a long love scene, not just fade to black after the initial kisses. And before you object, yes, I realise that the scene is cut off before the actual sex starts. The point is, I know where this is going, and I know that they're loving it. It's what they both want, and it's what the viewers want it for them. Okay, I'm going to leave those two lovebirds on the floor of that jail cell and wrap up this video. Well, I'm also going to ramble a little bit too, as usual, because as I said in the beginning, there's just so much going on there. I mean in the scene, not on that floor. I won't go into that anymore for now. One thing I'd like to elaborate on and interpret a little bit is why Caitlyn set up Jinx to escape with Vi's help. Couldn't she just have released Jinx and let her go like Vi wanted? That way Vi would have Jinx and maybe continue to see Caitlyn somehow. Instead, Caitlyn gambled her own future with Vi to give them the opportunity to escape together. Well, first of all, Caitlyn is a police officer at heart, a commander at a time of war. Her idealistic sense of justice and fairness gets in the way of her personal feelings. She simply cannot follow in Marcus's and Ambessa's footsteps and lead via corrupt and self-serving methods. Especially not after having been under Ambessa's sway for that long. She needs to distance herself from the dictator image that Ambessa tailored for her and which Caitlyn wore for quite some time. She needs to set a positive example, even if she wants to release Jinx.
No amount of good deeds can undo our crimes.
A crime committed cannot be undone. Lots of people are dead, so it doesn't matter if Jinx has changed. The system won't allow it. Caitlyn couldn't release Jinx even if she wanted to. She herself would be put in jail. She can't erase her mistakes, so she needs to make it look like an escape to avoid reproach. She can bend the law, but not overtly break it. It will create anarchy and she would most likely lose her position. As far as I can tell, it is the only selfish act she allows herself after Ambessa. Well, that and not reporting that Jinx might not be dead. Another thing that plays into her ruse is how Jinx has behaved. Caitlyn tells Vi that.
Then she just surrendered.
So Jinx wanted to be captured. And she almost apologizes to Caitlyn in the bunker jail earlier, on top of being completely resigned with her fate to die at the hands of the Pilties. And all of this means that Jinx most likely won't accept being released. Jinx feels she deserves punishment. If she stays in prison, she will die. So I guess the only way for Caitlyn to save Jinx for Vi's sake is to have Vi break her out of jail. Caitlyn must feel so unbelievably lucky that her plan succeeded and put Vi into her hands also. Thank God. I'd also like to conclude on the meaning of the love scene being set in a jail cell. I know there's been a lot of debate about why that is and whether it debases the love scene or not. Is it a dirty sex scene set in a dank jail cell, or is it a beautiful statement of love and mutual affection? When I watched it the first time, the setting did give me pause, but there's nothing dirty about this scene in my opinion. There are multiple reasons why setting it in that jail cell makes perfect sense. First of all, the cell is in the bunker, the same place that they have the new council meetings and the strategy meeting later. It's a bright place in earthy colours, not a dreary prison for criminals, but a remote place that can be easily protected and holds the most important people safe. Jinx is a VIP prisoner and hasn't been sentenced, so her being held close by Caitlyn makes sense. And it makes the escape easier for Caitlyn to plan. Though their first kiss was in a sewer, and their love scene in a jail cell, that doesn't mean that either the moments or the characters are less meaningful or important in the story. On the contrary, it just shows how they care about each other in the now, the real, where they are. Caitlyn and Vi have throughout the show always been portrayed as two people naturally developing feelings, irrespective of gender, sexuality and status. They're not afraid to commit no matter where they are. None of these characters care about appearances much. It's about their dreams and desires, their principles and their emotions. They don't fucking care. Furthermore, as I've already shown, this scene is a parallel to the jail scene in episode 4 and 5 in season 1, and is thereby a reference to their first meeting. It's a circular composition that makes us think of how much they've gone through and how they can start over now. How Caitlyn can help erase the memory of Vi's terrible time in Stillwater Hold. The development in their relationship is seen in how Caitlyn doesn't just let Vi out. She opens the cell with no hesitation and even enters the cell. She's not afraid to meet Vi where she is. Caitlyn is willing to let herself be immersed in Vi's world, taking a risk, getting up close and personal. Vi tries to hide, but Caitlyn leans all the way in and Vi can't escape her. She can escape the prison, but Caitlyn will always hold the keys to her heart. Sorry, that was corny, but it's true. And lastly, but most importantly, this is also the cell that Jinx was kept in. Both Vi and Caitlyn talk to her in that cell. Thereby, it can be seen as symbolizing the love triangle that's been going on between the three of them. It's a prison that has kept them fixed in place. None of them have been able to move past it or change the outcome if all three of them are involved, if all three are imprisoned.
We build our own prisons. We inhabit these cells, these identities, and call them us.
Vi has tried to choose between the two of them, but with disastrous results. So Vi blames herself for everything. She hasn't blamed Caitlyn in the time since she rammed her in the gut with the rifle. Vi feels she herself is to blame for it happening. She chose wrong then too, and then it went wrong. And now she blames herself again for picking Jinx, for believing she would do the right thing, only to find out that choice was made for her. Ironically, I said in my Caitlyn video that Caitlyn needed to have a conversation with Vi about making choices together. But where Vi chose for them both then, Caitlyn, as well as Jinx, make a choice on Vi's behalf here. What's even more ironic is that Caitlyn chooses Jinx for Vi, and Jinx chooses Caitlyn for Vi. But Jinx is the only one who gets the last say and thereby determines the outcome. In her hallucination conversation with Silco, she says,
I'm done running in circles.
And even though the jail scene feels like coming full circle for Vi and Caitlyn, as I mentioned before, Jinx is the one to break the cycle of the love triangle.
I think the cycle only ends when you find the will to walk away.
So Jinx takes herself out of the mix, so Vi can love Caitlyn freely.
You don't need to feel guilty about being happy. You deserve to be with her.
Initially, Vi feels betrayed by Jinx, which is why she's punching the walls. But when Caitlyn reveals her ruse, it kind of lets Jinx off the hook too, and not just Vi herself. Vi felt she had chosen wrong by picking Jinx, but this time the wrong choice was planned and therefore is right. In a way, Caitlyn has let Vi decide whether or not Jinx gets a second chance. And here suddenly Vi sees that Jinx now does indeed have a second chance, and so does she herself. Vi hasn't lost any of them. Not Jinx, not Caitlyn. They both still love her. And when Vi and Caitlyn make love in that jail cell, they break the final boundaries of the cycle, splintering the symbolic bars of the prison holding them back. It all melts away. Only shadows and scars are left behind. I love how Vi and Caitlyn can get to this point despite having treated each other badly, despite outside forces trying to keep them apart, despite both being traumatized by deeply personal events that should make them hate each other. They deserve each other and they have the capacity to heal each other from their personal misery. I definitely think Vi deserves a person who will make it her mission to treat her well. She has been to hell and back, and she thought she was right back at square one, having lost everything once again. She's finally getting some goodness in her life, taking something for herself, and it's about bloody time. And Caitlyn needs someone who loves her for herself and who keeps her grounded in her principles. I'm definitely going to make a Violyn video analysing their journey and how they could get here. So this is it for this video. Sorry it took so long. I got distracted along the way. If you want more Arcane content, I'm the co-host of a podcast called Near and Queer SFF, where we analyse and discuss science fiction and fantasy from a queer angle. The first 8 episodes are about Arcane Season 1, with more Season 2 episodes on the way. It's on Spotify, but we've recently launched a new channel here on YouTube, where we will release the podcast in subtitled video format. Links can be found in the description below. A big thanks goes out to Juby, Shah and the rest of the Near and Queer SFF server for excellent input on the love scene.